The story begins in the heart of West Africa, deep in the forests of what is now Nigeria, where the Kingdom of Benin rose to extraordinary prominence centuries ago. Unlike the simplified portrayals often given by colonial narratives, Benin was not a village or a loose collection of tribes. It was a sophisticated, powerful monarchy with a deep sense of tradition, art, and cosmic order. At the center of its authority stood the Oba, the king, who was seen not only as a political leader, but also as a spiritual bridge between the people and the gods. Surrounding him was a court of chiefs, priests, and guilds, all dedicated to maintaining the grandeur of Benin. Its wealth and prestige did not rest only in trade or warfare, but in its breathtaking artistic legacy, an art form that would one day stun the world, both in admiration and in greed. Among the many crafts of Benin, the most extraordinary were the bronzes. Crafted with an astonishing mastery of metallurgy, these works of art were not mere decorations. They were chronicles of history, royal decrees etched in metal, a visual archive of battles, rituals, and the lineage of kings. Using the lost wax casting technique, artisans of Benin achieved a precision that rivaled Renaissance Europe. Masks of ivory and brass, plaques of warriors and nobles, depictions of animals both sacred and symbolic, they carried within them the DNA of Benin's culture. To walk into the Oba's palace in the 15th and 16th centuries was to step into a living museum of a people's memory, with every plaque whispering stories of victories, alliances, and divine protection. But the world beyond Benin was restless. Across the seas, Europe was stirring with expansionist ambition. Portuguese sailors were the first Europeans to make contact in the late 15th century, and they were astonished by what they saw. The accounts they carried back described a city of broad streets, organized markets, complex governance, and unparalleled artistry. They traded with Benin for ivory, pepper, and later, tragically, slaves. Yet the Portuguese, like the Dutch and English who followed, were not only merchants, but also scouts of empire. And wherever empire's eye fell, covetousness followed. The British, by the 19th century, had set their sights firmly on West Africa. The industrial age demanded raw materials, and imperial pride sought new lands to dominate. But Benin, though surrounded by a tightening colonial grip, remained defiantly independent. Its rulers resisted foreign encroachment, and its people guarded their traditions with fierce resolve. Tensions simmered until they boiled over in 1897, when a British delegation attempted to enter Benin City despite warnings that a sacred festival was underway. The encounter ended in blood. Several members of the British Party were killed. What followed would be one of the most devastating acts of cultural plunder in history. In retaliation, Britain launched what it called the punitive expedition. Thousands of soldiers armed with modern rifles and Maxim guns marched on Benin City. The defenders, though brave, were no match for such firepower. The city was overwhelmed, set ablaze, and its treasures seized. The royal palace, once adorned with centuries of bronze plaques, ivory masks, and ceremonial regalia, was stripped bare. Soldiers looted indiscriminately, tearing down works that had been carefully tended across generations. By the time the flames and smoke cleared, Benin's heart had been ripped out. The Oba was exiled, his dynasty broken, and the sacred bond between the people and their ancestral art shattered. The bronzes, numbering in the thousands, were shipped across the seas. Auction houses in London overflowed with them, selling them to museums and private collectors at a fraction of their worth. The British Museum took many. Others found their way to Germany, France, and the United States. To scholars of art, they were revelations, proof that Africa was not, as colonial ideology had insisted, a continent without civilization. To the people of Benin, they were wounds, each bronze a piece of their soul carried away into foreign hands. In Europe, the bronzes were celebrated as masterpieces. Critics marveled at their sophistication, some even refusing to believe that Africans could have made them. Racist theories circulated, suggesting they must have been the work of lost Europeans or influenced by ancient outsiders. But the truth was undeniable. The bronzes were wholly Benin, born of African genius, nurtured by African kings, and stolen by foreign greed. Even as they adorned the halls of museums, their very presence whispered accusations, reminding the world of the violence that had displaced them. As the 20th century progressed and colonies gained independence, the call for restitution grew louder. Nigeria, inheritor of Benin's legacy, demanded the return of its stolen treasures. The British Museum resisted, citing laws that forbade it from permanently deaccessioning objects. Other institutions gave similar excuses. For decades, pleas fell on deaf ears. Yet the pressure never ceased. Scholars, activists, and descendants of the Benin royal family continued to insist that the bronzes belonged not behind glass in London or Berlin, but in Benin City, where their meaning was rooted. In recent years, the tide has begun to turn. Germany announced plans to return hundreds of bronzes from its collections. Some American museums have followed suit. Even the United Kingdom, long resistant, has made small gestures lending bronzes back to Nigeria, though not fully surrendering ownership. Still, the struggle continues. The question remains, can stolen heritage ever be truly restored, or has the wound cut too deep? Every bronze carries both beauty and burden, the artistry of a kingdom and the violence of its plunder. The story of the Benin Bronzes is not only about theft and restitution, it is about the resilience of memory. Despite the looting, despite the exile of their king, the people of Benin never forgot who they were. Oral traditions, rituals, and surviving art kept the flame alive. Today, Benin City still stands, and its descendants look to a future where the bronzes may return, not merely as museum pieces, but as sacred links to ancestors. They are more than objects. They are prayers in metal, voices of kings long gone, echoes of a city that once outshone London. For a world grappling with the legacy of empire, the bronzes pose a challenge. To keep them in foreign halls is to perpetuate the arrogance of conquest. To return them is to acknowledge that history demands justice. And so, as negotiations unfold, as crates of bronzes slowly make their way back across the seas, the world witnesses not just the return of art, but the slow mending of history itself. Benin's story, silenced in 1897, speaks again with every plaque, every mask, every gleam of bronze that finds its way home. In the end, the Benin Bronzes are not only treasures of Africa, they are treasures of humanity. They remind us that beauty can emerge from fire, that memory can survive exile, and that justice, though delayed, may yet be found.